Hello students, कैसे हैं आप लोग? Today we are going to discuss another important topic, that is the part of BSc Nursing semester 7 of nursing research, that is review of literature. Now, when you talk about review of literature, it is nothing, it's all about, it's a process where we try to know what has been done on a topic of your interest. Whenever you conduct a research, and that research right from starting, like while formulating a problem to the writing the discussion part, this review of literature become a very important topic. Okay, it's a very important step. Now, what are the learning objective for this? To understand the concept of literature review, we'll just try to see that. Then what are the purposes of literature review? Then we'll just talk about the various type of literature review and major sources and various stages while conducting the literature review. We also will try to explore the few important electronic database, okay, and we'll see that what are the characteristics and quality of a good literature review. So these are some of the important things. Now, as we all know that scientific knowledge grew day by day and multiplication of research information is also taking place. So what information you have today may not be the fresh one for tomorrow. It's keep on changing. So the studies are undertaken within the context of existing base of knowledge, and whenever you conduct a research, that research you are starting on the base of someone else. Okay, somebody has identified something, and while reading that researches or that particular research, you try to create your own argument and find the gap into that research, and from there you start your study. I mean to say, when someone end their research somewhere, you start from there. Okay, researcher work is to build on the work of others. Okay, so it's already I told you that how you are going to do that. Okay, research is not about all the time you start from zero. No, if somebody has started from 0 and they have reached up to the level of 3, then you start from 3 and you end up somewhere 5. Somebody else will come, start from 5 and they will end somewhere. So the research is a basically a cumulative process. In that way we do that, and for that literature review become a very important. Now, literature review provide readers with a background for understanding the current knowledge. Okay, that's a one important point. And what the topic of your interest. Okay, it also tell you about the significance of that research, the research what you're conducting. So maybe it's like when you conduct a literature review, it help you to justify your needs, है ना? It help you to identify and articulate the reason why the proposed research is necessary and relevant. That's the one important point. It also help you to reveal the data constraint, because somebody else has done a similar work, and for that reason what problem they have experienced has been documented by them. So while reading that, you will understand what constant you may anticipate. Okay, so this will help you to make advanced planning for your research. So literature, let's understand. So like as I'm saying, is a literature review. Literature review. So let's understand both the terms. Okay, what is literature then? It consists of all the written sources relevant to the selected topic. Now, availability of research information continue to escalate, that we all know. Okay, and these days we have computerized database facilities and the processes, so that these things made it more easy. Right? There was a time when you have to explore the existing body of knowledge or literature by visiting various libraries, and you used to spend a lot of time in finding that journals. But now most of the things are available online. So while sitting in your own room, okay, with a good access of internet and few subscription of these online database, it's become very easy for you, right? So now this process is more enlightened than the past for that reason. Now let's talk about some of the important definition of literature review. Okay, so two definitions I have taken here. The first definition, Burney and Groove, says it is an organized written presentation of what has been published on a topic by the scholar. In this definition, there are two important points that you have to focus. One is a published. Okay, one is a published and published by the scholars. That's the point. Okay, so anything that is published not by the scholar may not be the literature review, even though that considered as a grey literature. Okay, we'll talk about that as well. Second definition by Taylor is almost a reflection of that previous definition only. It is an account of what has been published by the accredited scholars. Now, what do you mean by accredited scholars? These are the qualified one. Okay, qualified scholar, those who have a good experience and qualification of conducting researches. So anything is published by them as a literature review. Both these definitions are something that very specifically talks about anything that is published by the scholars are considered as a literature review. Even though if you look at some of the other definitions, they have a very conservative thought on this. This is anything that is available on a topic of your interest. Maybe it is available in the form of bibliography or something that published in a newspaper, or even something that is not published, available in the form of a thesis or some dissertation available in the libraries. So all these are the one. So please understand that literature review is not a list of published studies. It is more a critical. It's a critical evaluation. Okay, it is a critical evaluation of that. It present identified themes and trends. Okay, but if you are conducting the literature, it will tell you what has been done on a topic. Okay, it is a critically analyze the available literature on a topic, so which already I have told you, and evaluate the study based on the focus of your researches. So I think you evaluate the previously done studies in the light of your research which you are planning or which you are conducting as of now. Now, when you talk about literature review, definition is clear. Now, literature review for quantitative research and literature review for qualitative research. That's a two important point, because whenever you conduct a literature review, it varies from the paradigm which you are actually focusing. If you are taking the quantitative paradigm or conducting quantitative researches, your review of literature play a major role. So here is a major role. Okay, so the purpose is to direct the development and implementation of the research. Major review is done at the beginning. That's very important. Please remember, in quantitative research, most of the review is done in the beginning of the research process, and limited review is done during generalization. So during the discussion. During the discussion part, we do the remaining literature. Relevant sources are cited in all the section of all the research report. So either you are writing a method part or your discussion part or result part or introductory part, wherever there is a required, you always keep on citing the work of a previous scholars. So that is about the quantitative one. Now let's talk about what is literature review for qualitative research. So there is no fixed format to use the qualitative literature review for qualitative researches. But one or two things like it's play a minor role, because as you all know that qualitative researches are done to find something for that little is known. If your purpose is to understand a phenomena in depth, and what phenomena you study in depth, for that nothing is known. So usually for qualitative researches, literature review do not play much significant role, even though it's vary from kind of design you have. Like for historical research, initial review is done to select the problem and questions. Okay. For ethnographic research, where the purpose is to study the culture. Okay, where the purpose is to study the culture. So in that ethnographic early research is done. Early research to provide the study context. So we do a minimum review in beginning, and we do major in last. Okay, for grounded theory, the purpose is to develop theory. Okay, the main purpose of grounded theory is to develop the theories. So what we do here, minimum review at the study beginning. Okay, so again the role is less, we do in the last only. Now What about phenomenological study? There we study the lived experience, lived experiences. And for that, data collection and analysis phase. So if for phenomenological researches, we never do literature review in the beginning as like other quantitative as well as these qualitative researches, because phenomenal studies usually study the lived experience of somebody and they wanted to study its first hand experiences without having any preconceptions, pre-notions about the phenomena. Like, so whenever you do a phenomenal researches, okay, you have to just break it out all your bias, you have to break it out all your thoughts about the phenomena before actually you're conducting the data. Okay, so you have to be like a blank paper. So as you can see here, for the qualitative researches, literature review usually done, minimum review is done in the beginning and some of the review that we do in the last, just to see the comparison with the other researchers. Now next important point, like usually students ask about the time frame. What is the time frame for literature review? So dear students, it depends on the type of problem you have. Like for example, if you are doing a research on a very common topic, so maybe within a few hours you will be able to complete your literature. But if you have taken a topic that is very rare, you do hardly find a researcher, so you have to spend more time on that. Sources availability. If you have accessibility to a good database like Sinal, PubMed, Scopus, okay, or accessibility to internet, okay, if these things are available to you, you can complete it in a brief time. Goals and the goals of the scholars, what exactly you want to do. If suppose you are doing a systematic reviews type researches, you need to spend more time while conducting the literature review. Whereas if you are doing some qualitative researches, you want to study one particular phenomena, I think less time is required for doing literature. So there is no set of length time for the review of literature, but narrower the focus, lesser time is needed. Okay, so, but it is important and advisable to set your own time frame, especially when you are conducting the quantitative researches. You have to set your time frame for that. Okay, so usually like for master students, we used to give 1 month time. Even though, let me remind you here, literature review is a process that we start right from the step one of research process, and we end with the step 18. Okay, so it's a continuous process. Okay, we keep on, even like once you completed your research and after that you submit that research for for publication, then also we keep on doing the literature by to add the newer researches. Now what are the types of literature? Okay, or what is the types of literature? So there are two basic types, empirical literature and the theoretical literature. Now what is empirical literature? It comprises of relevant studies in journals, books, as well as unpublished thesis. So anything is done by the researcher and published by them, or it's available by them. That is empirical research. Like for example, if suppose I just wanted to assess the level of professionalism okay, and I have collected data from the 500 nurse educators, and after that I'm saying the level of professionalism on particular criteria is 2.5, or I say 25%. So this is an empirical literature. So independent researches primarily done by the scholars and published, that is called as a empirical literature. Okay, so that is empirical. Okay, these are data driven studies. So whatever findings you are presenting, it is based on the information that primarily collected by the person. Okay, now what is that theoretical literature? So theoretical literature is, it is a conceptual framework and theories. It consists of the concept analysis, models, theories, conceptual framework that support the selected research problem and purpose. So basically theoretical literature you'll find while writing the introduction part of your research and all. I'll give an example. Like I have done a study on professionalism, and for that I have to define this term. So how to define this? So I have taken a criteria that is given by the Flexner. So Flexner has given us 6 criteria to define professionalism. So that become my theoretical literature. I have not conducted any research for this. I have taken some other theories. So whatever you are getting from the existing theories, or some narrations are available like concept analysis and all. Like if I ask you, can you define the term resilience? You will say yes. Can you define the term anxiety? You will say yes, I can do that. So how you do that? You do that by reviewing the theoretical literature. Okay, so theoretical literature can be found in the serials, okay, is the periodicals and the monographs. Next is the purposes of literature. What are the purposes we have for literature review? So very briefly, if we see the point listed here, it tells about the orientation of what is already done. Of course, what is done on a topic of your interest. If you wanted to know that, conduct the literature. It helps you to identify the gap in the existing literature. I think that become a base for conducting your researches. If you read someone else's work, you read their limitations, you read their recommendations, and that help you to identify what are the weaknesses in that particular research and where you can conduct your own research. And in that continuation, it provides a foundation for your own research. So on that base, you can conduct. It also help you to avoid duplication of work. If someone else has done something, and why you want to repeat the same thing? Okay, so it becomes very, very important whenever you plan to solve a problem. You have to see whether this problem has been solved by others or not. If it is solved by others, then what else or what aspect of that problem still remain unsolved? In what area you can focus? Okay, then information of the research approach. So it also tell you what research design or approach or sampling or analysis part or tools you can use for your own research. Then describe the strength and weakness of the other studies, and that is something provide the base for you to conduct the researches. What are the sources of literature review? So there are two sources, primary sources as well as the secondary sources. So when you talk about the primary sources means first-hand information. First-hand information. Okay. Now, where you find the first-hand information? In the research articles, or what I must say, original research article. Original research article. Dissertations and thesis. These all are conducted by the person which are available there. Okay. Now, so when you go for a primary sources, that is more desirable actually. When you have to choose from primary as well as secondary, you should go for the primary sources only. But in many cases, primary sources may not be available for you. Then you go for the secondary sources. Secondary sources means second-hand information. Second-hand information means it is available, okay, but written by someone else. Like for example, if I write about the criteria of professionalism, and there are 6 criteria that described by the flexioner. So this becomes a secondary information for me. Okay, so that we call it secondary information. Okay, so something available in the textbook, because textbooks are written based on the references provided by others. Okay, so that's secondary. Magazines, review articles, commentaries, all these are the secondary sources. Let's see what are the pros and cons of this. So for primary data sources, what are the pros we have? They have, of course, high accuracy because it is done by a person and published by the same person. Okay, no extra questions are required for that reason. Detailed data, because if I write something which I have done myself, okay, I can provide the things in a detail, and only option in many cases. Okay, what are the cons for this? Disadvantages? Sometimes it's a high cost. Like for everything, if I look for the primary sources, it may be very expensive. Like for example, if I wanted to see the attendance of students in a class, I have 2 sources. Primary sources, I go and observe the students in a class. Second sources, I can just see the attendance register maintained by the college. Okay, so that would be more easy for me, right? It will not then time consuming sometime and skill intensive. Now with secondary data, what are the advantages? They are convenient. Of course, it is already prepared, ready-made format, it is available to you. That's why it is cost effective, and sometimes that is only the option. Because especially if you are doing like retrospective studies, or you are doing historical researches. Okay, suppose I want to collect the data of or trends of nursing research in 50s. So what I rely on the documents and the data, or what I say, records are available of that time. Okay, and it's sometimes it's reliable, because you don't have any interest in that, you can avoid the conflict of interest. So when secondary data is being taken, what are the cons? Accuracy issue is there, because there are always chances, if somebody else is writing someone else's work, there are chances of error. Data relevancy could be a problem. It may not be like, sometimes irrelevant things are being given there, and to find one or two relevant point, you have to read a lot. And reliability concern is also important issue we have there. Next, we'll talk about the methods or the steps of literature review. So as you can see, there are 6 steps. As I'm saying, it is not an absolute one. Different textbooks have their own steps. Some of the books will talk about the 3 steps only, but more or less the headings would be the same. Okay, so first point is to formulate the research questions. We'll talk about this. Then devising your search strategy, screening and gathering the references, abstract and uncode the information, critique, evaluate and analyze the information, and prepare the written synthesis. Okay, finally you are compiling everything there. Step 1, that is formulate the research question. That is very, very important here. It should be specific, measurable and relevant to the topic at hand. Okay, you have to make it 2 types of question, primary question as well as the secondary questions. Okay, we have a secondary question as well. Now what is a primary question? Primary question is something that directly reflecting your research problem. Like, what is the effectiveness of nurse-led intervention in managing the chronic pain? Okay, that's the primary question. Okay, so I have to use these keywords to identify the relevant researches. So whenever I go and find out the researches done regarding the effectiveness of nurse-led intervention in managing their pain, that is what my primary question. Similarly, the secondary question deals about the related aspect or sub-question that support the primary questions. Okay, like it might explore the underlying factors such as the age, gender, that influence the effectiveness of this intervention. Even though I just want to see the effectiveness of that intervention on a pain, but intervention may vary, or being affected by many demographic factors. So that is my secondary question. So wherever you start doing a literature review, just see what is your primary question that should reflect exactly what your research problem says, and then look for the secondary one. So here you can just see, just identify a topic. Okay, so begin by selecting the broad area of interest to explore. Like if you start saying things very narrow in the beginning, you won't find much of the literature. If suppose I just wanted to study the professionalism, okay, so I have to just type professionalism in nursing. Okay, from nursing, then I'll write about the nurse educators. Then I can write about the India. Then I can write about the North India. So like that I have to narrow down. It's a funnel shape. No? You start from here and eventually or gradually just become very specific. Define your scope, narrow down the topic to manageable and focused area. Okay, because if you are not focused in a specific area, you will find so many irrelevant literature and it will become unmanageable for you. Then formulate your questions from these 2 points, develop a clear and specific question that guide the research, and refine the questions when and then it is required. Ensure the question is measurable, relevant and achievable. Second step, developing the search strategies. So the Cooper in the year 1998 has identified the several approaches. Some of these are as follow. So I've taken a 4 here. One is a bibliographic database, where we are taking this as a primary search strategies. I must say almost 99% of the literature review is done by referring this bibliographic database. Now the question comes, what is bibliographic database? These are nothing, these are organized collection of the published literature. Okay, it is the online compilation of all the researches. You can say in that way. Like for example, we have a PubMed, we have a Scopus, Shodh Ganga, okay, Madden, all these are the, there are many, CancerLit, AppSco. So these are the bibliographic database. They are the online compilation. You can say just like a online library of all the researches. Second approach is an ancestry approach. Now what is ancestry approach? In that we tracing researches through the references. Let's say I have conducted a research and published in the year 2013. So when my research was published, a research might have done in the year 2012, okay, in 12. So I have used some references for that. So whenever you look at this paper, you just see the references. In the references, whatever researches I have listed there, that research has become a source for me. Now suppose from 2013, you have referred the reference section and you found a research that was done in 2010. Then you went to this research, then you went to the references, and from there you find a research that was done 2009 or maybe 2008. So like that you are going backward. That is why ancestry approach is also known as a backward searching. You started from 13, then 10, then 9, then 8, and you are going early and early. Now here people sometimes ask ki, what kind of literature we need to include, how recent literature to be included. So it is a quality of a good research review to have a recent one. You should always add a recent one, but that does not mean you cannot add an old literature. If you can justify the presence of that literature, or if your research design require that, if your research question require that, definitely you can add literature of any year. Okay, so that's the point. Then we have a descendancy approach. So for the descendancy approach is a what we call a forward looking approach. Okay, I'll just give an example. Now, if suppose same research that published in 2013, okay, and that research where I have to identify the studies citing the pivotal work. So it is based on the citation actually. Okay, a research that is published in 2013, and from there I have to find the most recent one. I'll just tell you the example here. As you can see, for descendancy approach, so this is my own Google profile. As you can see here, this research, factors affecting non-compliance, was published in the year 2013, which having a 13 citation. Okay, how many citations we have? 23 citations. Now what I have to do is, I just have to click here. So when I click here, you see I got all the researches. Now by clicking that 2013, the research which was published in 2013, and where 13 people have, 23 people have cited. So once I click on 23, I go to research that was done in 2017, 2017. So I have reached from 13 to 17. Now again if I click, now you see this research is again cited by the 17 people. So when I click this, it will give me another research that I reached in here in 2019. So this is how I reach 13 to 17 to 19. This is what we call a forward moving researches. Forward moving researches. So this is how we can conduct the descendancy approach. Okay, so that is a descendancy. It's a backward moving, it's a forward moving. Now the last point here is a grey literature. What is a grey literature? So exploring the non-peer reviewed sources. That is a grey literature, I must tell you. Exploring the non-peer reviewed sources. What do you mean by that? As we all know that literature review definition says it is something that is published by the scholars by following a rigorous process. So whenever I conduct a research and submit it for publications, it go through some rigorous process. It will be given to the peers for peer review. They will give their frank opinion. They will check the accuracy of that paper, and there are so many parameters on that. They will evaluate the credibility of that research, and if they found it suitable, then only it will be published. So whatever comes in the journal, in a good journal, will have its own accuracy and authenticity. But if anything is done without following that process, that we call a grey literature. There is a considerable confusion that people says grey literature is something that is unpublished literature. No, unpublished literature could be a one type of grey literature. Even published literature could be a grey literature. Like, for example, a newspaper article that is just an opinion of some politician. Even though it is an article, information published, but it has not been evaluated by peers. So that is also a grey literature. So grey literature means something that is available without a rigorous peer review process. Now, why do we need to have that? It is not a good literature actually. So why do we need to have a grey literature? I'll tell you a very important reason. Something, usually what happens, you might have seen that most of the studies which are published with good journals are the one who have a significant results. So usually studies with a non-significant results are not published. Right? Why? Because the editor says if there is no significance, why to publish that? That is why you see that most of the studies which are published having a significant results. This can create something called a publication bias. Publication bias means all the published studies are biased towards the significant findings only. So whenever you are conducting a literature, you have a main purpose to see what has been done. And if every time you only look at the published significant result studies, then what happens? You will never approach this non-published, the researches which are not significant, the researches which are giving the non-significant results. So to balance that, suppose I just want to see the effectiveness of an intervention on something, and that effectiveness I found 20 studies and all are significant. But there could be 5 studies which might have given a non-significant results, and because of that they were not published. So as a researcher, I have to explore grey literature to see and balance the things. Either I conduct an independent research or I do kind of a systematic review. I have to check for this publication bias, and that is why the grey literature become important part of your strategy. Now these are some of the using bibliographic database. Even though some of these database I'll discuss in detail, but there is a CINAHL, Medline, ISI, EdSearch, Embase, HAPI, Cochrane database, ERCI, Scopus, Shodhganga, Madin and ResearchGate. There could be many more. Most important, I say, like Medline is a one, ISI that produce Web of Science. Then we have here Scopus. And if you look at the Indian database, these are Madin and Shodhganga is an Indian. But they are not very, they don't publish researches with a rigorous process, okay. So these are some of the important one. Okay, so whenever you develop a search strategy, it should be a written search strategy to save time. So whatever strategy you are taking, it's like ancestry approach or descendancy or grey literature or making combination of all that. You cannot rely on only one. So I'm not saying you only go for ancestry or descendancy. No, you can have a combination of all these, okay. So avoid going back to a long path you have already searched. अगर आप लिख लेते हैं अपनी strategy को written बनाते हैं, तो you can avoid the duplications, okay. It retrace your steps. I have seen that many times students go to one research and after 10 days or 15 days they try to find the same research, but they are unable to retrace it. But if you have a good search strategy, you can have that tracing capability. Search the new path, because if you know that what already you have searched, so you are not going it again to do the same thing, okay. Then initial search should be wide, later you can have a narrow. So initial search should be simple search, and from there you read to the complex search. Okay, I'll tell you what is simple and what is complex in the subsequent slides. Now, what you need to do here is, for the search strategy, these are some of the important steps. One is select the database. Now, selection of database is a very, very important. Usually you have to select the database which has its own credentials. Okay, or maybe if you are students, so something that is available free of cost, accessible at free, or something that freely accessible to you. I have seen that student, they are spending a lot of money, especially in dollars, to get one specific article, and then that article may not be that much relevant to your research. Okay, so what kind of such strategies you are having, that depends on many factors, like its accessibility, that is a one point. Okay, then its relevancy, like if you are a medical student or nursing students, you will select the database that has a nursing articles. Okay, so then the how user friendly they are. Okay, so all these some of the important point you should always consider. Like if you talk about the Baba Farid University or Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, or maybe the other universities in our country, where the universities having their own online libraries, and with that online libraries, nowadays students are accessible to the all form of database. Like Sinal is not freely available, but through that particular online library you can accessible to Sinal also. So once you select the database, second step is to select the keywords. Then you should select the record reference management, like you can have a Zotero or Mendeley. Then locate the literature and perform the complex search also, as well as the simple search. So we'll discuss all that in detail. So this is the search strategies to obtain the literature. The first point is develop a search strategy, plan the approach for the finding the information, which already I have told you. Then select the database to the search. So choose the appropriate database. I already told you what exactly it is and how to do that. Then select the keywords. Keywords are the major variables. Okay, so identify the key terms for the effective searching. Then systematic record references, because whenever you search something, you have to save it somewhere. Okay, so it is always advisable to have your reference record system. Usually, you know, it's a process of organizing the documents. You can make your own folders in your PC, in your laptop, in your tablet, or you can use the certain references. Even these days, like if you talk about PubMed and all, they have all the storage. That's why I always suggest, whenever you visit any database, first create your login credentials and go through your own account. So there you can save all the searches which you have done. Okay, so like that. Then use the reference management software. If you are not going for that, you can use the management software, like as I said, Zotero is very common, and Mendeley is also available. Then there are other EndNote is also there. Okay, that you can use. Then locate the literature, relevant literature through the database or maybe the online journals which are available, and that is what we call a simple search. Simple search, and then perform the complex search. What is complex search? Complex search is something where you try to perform a combined search. Like for example, if I say it's professionalism, that is simple search. So all the studies done on professionalism will come. But if I say professionalism and nurse educators, now it's a complex search, because I am adding something, nurse and nurse educators, and I just write the nurses. So that become a complex one. Okay, I'll just talk that also. Then select the search fields, specify field to narrow the search. Okay, so always try to, initial search should be very broad. You start with the professionalism, then you can add the keywords. Okay, then select the electronic journals, which many journals are available nowadays. So journals are already most of the journals are listed in the database, but if journals are not available, so you can just go to their site and just can access from there. Search the internet and find all the literature. So this is how you can get your literature. So just follow these steps. First, select the database. So bibliographic database is a compilation of citation relevant to the specific discipline. मैंने already आपको बता दिया इसके बारे में. So there are three different types are available. Some database are having indexes and abstract. Full text reprint services are also available for some, and some of the database only provide the link citations. Okay, so database are of two types. It can be a printed one, it can be electronic one, but these days almost all the database are available in an electronic format. Then select the keywords. Now what is the keywords? Keywords are the major concept or variable that must be included in the search. Okay, that's very, very important. So like for example, if my study is about nurse led, okay, 1 second, nurse led intervention on chronic pain. Sorry. So nurse led intervention become my one variable, one keyword. Pain become a second keyword among cancer patient. So cancer patient will become my words. Okay. So please understand that. So keywords are the major concept. Okay. So keywords are the major concept. So identify the concept, recognize the core idea. So your primary question which you have formulated in this literature will help you to select your keywords. Okay. If sometime you can use the alternative terms also, synonymous. Like for example, if I am doing a study on non-compliance, so I should find out the synonym term for non-compliance. Like for example, non-adherence. Okay. If so, that kind of things you can do. Like nurses, then the clinical nurses, all that. Okay, or like that. Search plan, documented the search. So whenever you decide about your keyword, selection of keywords, please note down what was your keywords. Okay, so I hope you will remember these 4 points. Identify the major concepts, alternative terms, always use the synonym term to broaden your search. Okay, sometimes student says that I'm unable to find the relevant researches, so please change your terms with that. Okay, then in this keywords only there is another word, that is a truncating. Okay, so truncating is also the one allowed to locate the major citation related to the term. What is that? So do not truncate terms is less than 4 letters. Like for example, you might have seen that in Google also. When I start, suppose I have to conduct a research among the nurses. Okay, so what I do, I'll just write NUR. That is a truncation. Like when you write like Chandigarh. Okay, so how to truncate Chandigarh? I just write first word C. So all the keywords, all the researches starting from having a keyword of C will come, then CHAN, like that. So many researches that having the keyword starting from CHN will come. So eventually it will go that process is called as a truncation. Pay attention to the variant in the spellings. Like even though we are using the English only, but just see like behavior versus behavior. What English we follow in UK and in America. So according to that you can search. Frequently cited author's name can be used to perform the search. That is a good idea, but for that you need to know the name of author. So just you can click that options are available. Then use the journal title in case of well-known journals that is particular topic. So like that, some of these things you can do for selecting the keywords. So what is the next step then? Search recordings. So what you need to record? Just record the name of database which you use. Just you can make a simple table like that. Okay, even though we are not making these tables because already we have many reference management softwares like as I said Zotero. But if you want to do it manually, then you can just name the database used. What were the inclusion or exclusion criteria for used? Like what is that inclusion criteria? Like for example, I just want to study in last 5 years. Last 5 years only English articles, only controlled trials, only RCTs, only Indian studies. That could be my inclusion criteria. Okay, so whenever you use the such filters on these databases, please make sure that you make a record of that. Data performing search, what was that? Exact search strategy used, what you used for that, whether it was forward or backward, whatever. What were the keywords you used for that? Please note down this. Combination search strategies, like for example, professionalism and nurse educator, all that. Number of articles that you found, number of articles which were relevant to your research, because when you write something on a PubMed or your database, it will give so many researches, but you have to see the percentage of researches which are relevant to your topic, right? Website visited and link pursued, authors, if you contacted anybody, and all this information, and develop a table and record and save it for your computer. So this is a one way you can always record your searches. You can use the systematic record references. So already that we know that APA is a very commonly used, okay, APA, Vancouver, okay, Vancouver is also the one we are using. So Vancouver is a basically product of ICMJE. Now you have to answer me in the comments what is a full form of ICMJE, okay, it's one of the organization actually that manage the Vancouver. Then cross-check the sources cited 2 or 3 times to prevent error. Use the reference management software which already I have told you, Zotero. Okay, I'll just take one class on Zotero, Mendeley or EndNote. Okay, so there you can see. So these are the reference management software which already I have told you. Then locate all the relevant literature. So initial search using the keywords identified. Okay, so that you have to start with that. Citations are listed with the most recent one. Yeah, so whenever you list your citations, just cite from the most recent. I have seen that, you know what people do, they organize as it is. No, the study done in 2025, then 24, then 23, then 22, like that you have to arrange your researches. So most recent should be the first. Proceed to the next keyword, plan for the complex search. So you go for a simple search and you go for the complex search. Now, what is that complex search? Simple search means by default you are typing your key variables, okay, in the home page of any database, and you find all the literature review with that. You know, sometime when you perform the simple search, you may get so many irrelevant articles. And suppose with the one keyword, like let's say if I'm saying a nurse-led intervention on cancer, and I go just let's say 1000 article on that. Can I read all 1000 articles? The answer is no, I cannot do that. Okay, and most of them will not be relevant to me. So what I have to do? I have to perform the complex search. So what is complex search? It is a combined 2 or more concepts or synonym in one research. Okay, so you can use most common ways by using these operators. So there are Boolean operators, locational operators, and positional operators. So I'll talk about the Boolean operator here only. Okay, and you can also use the truncating symbols. Okay, these are some of the symbols which are available. We'll see the use of that. So let's talk about these operators. They permit the grouping of ideas, selection of places to search, and show the relationship within the database records. So examine the help screen to see whether these operators are available or not. So Boolean operator is the one that most commonly used. It is available on a PubMed. So 3 words they are using in operators like and, or, and not. They all are capitalized, used with the identified concepts. Or is most commonly used. Okay. So if I talk about and is used to narrow the search. Okay. Whereas or is used to broaden the search. Not is again used to narrow the search. Okay, always used to narrow the search. Like for example, when I say professionalism, okay, or profession. So with this professionalism, I may get maybe 100 articles, but when I add or, it may lead to let's say 300 articles. Okay, and will narrow. Like for example, when I say professionalism, then and nurse educators. Now this 100 will reduce to a significant number. Okay, not. Like for example, if I say nurse educator, not nurses. So this will again will narrow my search. If you look at this Boolean operators, what we have used here is like as you can see, salmonella and hamburg or egg. Okay, so with that you got these many literatures. Okay, if you see the example here, like if you write a pain, it's a simple search. You got 3,35,949 articles. When you use pain and child, where you're using this asterisk, so everything related to the child or children will come there, and nurse, so NU are only they have written. So now this is something to narrow the search. As you can see, now these articles were only 2054. Then you limit that to English by putting that filter. So now only 1834. Limit to the abstract, then again it's narrow, 1430. Limit to the nursing journals only. That's on, I only want the article that published in the nursing journals. Then it is 794, and then in the last 5 years only. Okay, then it's only 399. So this is how we have started like that and eventually become very narrow. So I can just read only 399 articles to get the relevant literature. This is a complex search example. How you can limit your search? This has become very important, because you have a fixed time and you have to complete your literature. You should adapt a strategy where you can get a maximum, related to you only. So limit the search, vary with the database, limit the year of search, limit with the particular year and get the hits, depend on the time limit. Full text articles are always better, Mostly if you get a full text article, you can read the things in detail. Okay, it would be more informative to you instead of only just reading the abstract. So it helps to avoid irrelevant and nonsense material. So when you have a specific strategy, then you can avoid this all irrelevant things. You can also search for the electronic journals. So electronic journals, why? These days we are only looking for the electronic journals because the informations are more current there. In a printed journals, what happens, something that published in 25 and it will be available in 27, because it takes time to get printing and reaching to the various institutions or libraries and all. Need to subscribe the online journals. Yeah, now to, as I said, ki online libraries are available in most of the medical health sciences universities. So with that, free accesses are available. But apart from that, like PubMed is freely available, Web of Science, and there are many databases that are freely available to you. Okay, can access the full text article with that. Articles are reviewed and published within 3 months if you are going for the electronic one. And list of current electronic journals you can available from the nursingjournal.com. Okay, these are one of the site you can have. You can also search from the internet and World Wide Web. So unlike to find the relevant studies, but may get information relevant to the background and significant. So again, when you search on internet, even though I just say that you should avoid going directly to the internet search with a Google search engine and all, because the information which are available on a Google may not be rigorously processed. So that is why I say, if you're going to some accredited database, so your information would be more authentic. So disadvantage for internet search is accuracy is always a questionable. Huh? That's a problem. Important to check the sources from where it is available and identify the base search engine that is available to you. So with that, we complete the second step, developing a search strategies. Now we'll move on the third stage, that is screening and gathering the references. So once you're done, your literature is done, you perform the initial search, conducting a broad search for the relevant studies, which already I've told you, then screening the result. That's become very important. So I think, one part of screening you do by applying the filters there only. Like for example, in this particular example, as I said, like I just want a study on pain, then pain and children and nurses, only the English article, only the nursing journals in last 5 years. So like that, you can always have that. Okay, so just you can put some filters, so only relevant articles you're getting there. Then article you get after that, just review the abstracts and titles first. Instead of going reading the detail, first try to check the relevancy of that particular research by reading that abstract. Okay, assessing the studies based on the abstract and the title. Then the detailed review of the full text articles. Now from there, let's say you have read the 100 abstract or a title, maybe there are only 60 studies you found relevant. Now conducting a thorough review of these 60 studies. Okay, then identify the relevant study from that. So maybe you are getting 30 studies which are relevant to you, which are recent, or on some criteria you have added that. Okay, selecting the studies that are aligned with your research scope. Then Once you do that, the 30 study, this get the citations. Okay, collecting the citations, selected study, just put a reference. So you can save these researches into your reference management software. You can make your own folder in your PC, and accordingly you do. And finally, you organize that with the references. Okay, so structuring the references, you can use the software, you can do it manually. Already we have told you there are many referencing styles are available, but most commonly for nursing and medical students, we are using like APA, okay, or we are using Harvard, or you can say like ICMJ Vancouver. Okay, some of these are available, and you can use this software management software in the third stage. Now we'll move on to stage 4. Abstract and encode the information. Now your recording part, searching and gathering references is done. Now it is a encoding the information. So this is, I think, one step that manually you do, not a mandatory one, because already you have done in the third step, and if you are using this reference management software, you can avoid it. Okay, so what we do, if you are there to make a manual list of all these things, you can have the recording mechanism by having a literature review matrix and literature review protocols. So what is literature review protocols? Is nothing, just same like just make a record of that, like author name, okay, then the journal name, then the year of publication, okay, the key variables, findings, all the details you can just make it in the form of a literature review protocols. Protocols are nothing, these are the ready-made templates which are available, and you just save that. Whereas you talk about the literature review metrics, these are also maintained. Like we have 3 types of metrics. One is a methodological, result, and evaluation. Now methodological metrics talks about how have researchers studied these research questions. They talks about the methods, what methods they have adapted, what was the design, sample, data collection, okay, all these informations, analysis are the part of that. Result metrics, that talks about what was the outcome, that talks about the findings, major findings. Evaluation metrics, how much confidence that we have, that talks about the evaluation, how much credentials you have in that, like what was the design, and how do they control the confounding variables, sampling, power analysis, statistical test, all that you just check about the evaluation metric, where you evaluate the credibility of that research, how much confidence you have, you just look at the limitations and all. Okay, that's about this. Then the stage 5, this critique, evaluate and analyze the information. So this is an overall sum up in the form of this flow chart. Formulate and refine the primary and secondary questions, which already have done. Devise your search strategy, that we have done. Selecting the database, search for, identify and retrieve the potential primary source material first, then document and make a decisions. Okay, then from there screen sources for relevancy and appropriateness, and those who are you find irrelevant and inappropriate, please discard that. Then read the source material, abstract, encode the information, critique and evaluate, analyze, integrate the information. That is about the critical evaluation. So this is a very, very important step actually, and we'll see that how to do that. Then prepare the written synthesis. So structure review, organize the content logically and coherent. So put the most recent one, connect in that way ki when readers are reading your literature, it should not look merely a compilation of the research, it should have some logical understanding. There should be a logical connection between that, okay? And whenever you write a literature review, always try to paraphrase it. Writing part is very, very important, right? Then critical assessment, okay, evaluate the, integrate the existing researches, identify the trends, just highlight the pattern and the gap in the literature, synthesize the findings, combine, because you are referring the multiple researches there. So you have to arrange your literature in such a way that all the studies seems to be well integrated. Okay, it should tell the story. Okay, then conclude and summary. Okay, in summary you can just, okay, now we'll talk another important part of literature review, that is writing the literature. It has a practical implication for the students. Like in a previous slides, we have seen that how to perform the literature review, and once you have done that, next important point is the writing one. So in writing, just shorting the sources that already I have discussed with you, how to short it, how to scheme the things, developing the written literature review, and the checking for the references. These three are important. So shorting the sources, even though already I have covered, but it is really challenging because just finding the relevant sources is very difficult. But if you have a written strategy which is carefully designed and planned, you can avoid to get the irrelevant sources, or you will get a maximum relevant sources. Okay, organizing the review in a very meaningful manner is really a challenging, because I have seen whenever you write the chapter of literature review, all the studies that you compile there looks like a disintegrated. But when you write a literature, right from the line 1 and where you are ending and writing your literature gap, it should be logically coherently connected with each other. Okay, structure in such a way that the presentation is logical, demonstrate the meaningful thematic integration, and lead to conclusion about the state of evidence on a topic. Now, developing the written review. So the major section in writing the literature include the introduction. Introduction may include like your search strategy and basic process you adapted. Then if it is applicable, write about the theoretical literature that usually is a part of your introduction, intro. Okay, and somewhere you are giving an argument there. Okay, you describe the need, background, etc. Okay, then the discussion, the empirical literature, where you just cite the specific researches you have used there. It is more challenging, and in both the things we have to paraphrase everything. We have to paraphrase everything. Okay, don't copy and paste as it is. You have to just write it in your own way by selecting your own wordings. It is not necessary that all the information that you are getting from that particular study should be mug up there. No, you only have to write the relevant to your audience. Okay, and lastly you write the summary. In that you can write about the literature gap, okay, and overall things. Now, if you take this example of introduction, how to write the introduction, thus I have taken this example, my own research, a randomized controlled trial to determine the effect of nurse-led brief psychosocial intervention on body image distress and treatment compliance among the patient undergoing treatment of cancer. Now, in that, the preliminary literature review was conducted by using the electronic database PubMed, Google Scholar, Indian Journal of Psychiatric Nursing, that include the literature from psychosocial intervention, body image distress, and treatment compliance. So these are the variables. So what this section is talking about, how the literature was performed. It's about the process. So when somebody is reading what exactly they have done. Okay, the main search keywords used were cancer in all field, and was used as a Boolean operator, psychosocial intervention in all field, and cancer all field, or was also used to broaden the search at body image distress, and Boolean operators and or not used to narrow the search. So basically narrow and broaden the search. This is a search strategy how we write. Now, after writing an introduction, then second point is you write about the theoretical literature. So writing a theoretical literature is just like an introduction. So where what you do, you just just give an argument in introduction or describe the need for your research. You give some of the literature you write just to just give a background for your research. So that is about the theoretical literature, and theoretical literature we always write in a running format. Okay. Now next is the empirical literature. How do we write the empirical literature? So I have taken one example here. So this is the actual research study, and how we have paraphrased here in this way. So now it is up to you, like body image distress among cancer patient, need for psychosocial intervention development. The study was done and published in a PubMed. These are the ID. DOI means digital object identifier number. With that you can identify this document. Then this is then abstract, where objective, design, method, result and conclusion is written. Now you read this part first, and you read this. So you will understand that what we have written. Like as you can see in this, there are many information is available. They are talking about which scale they have used, what were the p values, what were the confidence interval, and all other statistical information is available, as you can see here. But here such information is not given. Okay, so it is the researcher to decide what information may be relevant to your audience. So here we have written, the conducted a cross-sectional study on body image distress among cancer patients. The study was carried out of on 170 purposely enrolled head and neck cancer patients who had undergone surgery at tertiary care hospital in India. The findings revealed substantial body image distress among the patient due to change in the body appearance. Female patients who had undergoing surgery at young age reported higher body image distress. Nurse-led psychosocial intervention on routine follow-up are the potential strategy to overcome the negative impact of the body image. And then full stop and the reference given. So you can see this is a paraphrased version of writing the empirical literature. Now the last part is, once you complete the compilation of all the researches, then you write the literature gap. So the lack of evidence related to, like when somebody is read, finally you write it as summary. The lack of evidence related to the psychosocial intervention and their effectiveness represent a gap in the body of knowledge that require in-depth exploration. The author realized that the large-scale randomized controlled trial must be considered to explore about the use of psychosocial intervention programs for reducing the body image distress and treatment compliance among the patients. So this is clearly we are saying that the effectiveness of such psychosocial intervention need more causal relationship. So there are more researches need to be done. So we are just focusing existing researches has done on a topic, but there is a requirement of more researches in that area. That is a gap for this. Final step here is you just check for the reference. Check the reference for completeness. Error should be avoided. Spelling of the authors, their name, everything. Check all the citation within the text citation or year of citation can be done. So with that we complete this chapter, review of literature. Now the last part, what are the characteristics of a quality review? It should be systematic, means it should be logical, reproducible. If suppose I am citing one research, with that reference, if I click, I can reproduce the same thing. It should be absence of bias. Okay, whenever you write a literature, you should have all combination of what? Of your published and unpublished studies. Means you should just check for the publication bias. Okay, so all that. Some of it parts. Whenever you write in the very beginning, I told you, literature review is not only just a compilation, it is a critical evaluation of someone else's work. And your role as a researcher in this to point out what is known already, how dependable the studies are, what are the gaps that exist in the body of research, and the contribution of the present study would make. If end of your literature, if you can answer all these questions, then you've done a good literature, and that is your role. In a conclusion, I can say it is a very critical step in research process, but challenging, and is undertaken for many different purposes. And as already we have discussed, sometimes you conduct a systematic review, sometimes you make your own review paper, or you conduct a original researches. For that you take length depend on the purpose and many other things already I have discussed. Use mainly primary source for developing the research proposal. Computerized databases are available these days, so you can get a more recent and peer-reviewed content, okay, which has a high accuracy. Then thorough review facilitate development of a research proposal. So that is all about this particular unit, review of literature. Thank you.